Council order. Lori, the roll, please.
Mr. Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Peabody.
Here.
Mr. Wirtz.
Here.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Mr. Iverson.
Here.
Mr. Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Lori. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Kevin with us this evening for invocation. Pastor?
Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we ask your blessing upon this meeting, upon all those participating in it. Let your guidance be here and present with us. Help us as a city as we are moving into a period of transition and changes in many positions. Let your blessings be upon that as well, and just guide us so that your spirit rises up within us, and let your peace reign. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Approval of the agenda for this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for this evening.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And any public comment? No, thank you. Next, we have accept information reports from standing committees and staff, all of our regular reports. Any questions or discussion on any of these items? Doug?
I would like the building inspector report pulled.
Give me a number on there, Doug.
Four.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
Move to approve the remainder of the report calendar.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Doug, item 4.
Yeah,
building
I'd just like to
inspector
note
report.
that the year-to-date estimated value of the build in the city, the permits and everything equal about $7.5 million, as opposed to last year, $4.5 million. So it's an uptick on building permits in the city, and I hope that keeps on improving in 2020.
Excellent. Any other discussion on item number 4? Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the building report.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Consent calendar, unless their mayor, council, or staff asks that one or more of the items be pulled, the list may be approved with single vote. We have 3 of those this evening. First one's going to be common council minutes from December 10th. The second one's going to be operator license for the 2019-2020 licensing period. And the third one is going to be request for Class B fermented malt beverage and intoxicating liquor license for the remainder of the 2019-2020 licensing period. Staff recommends approval of all license, has no concerns. Any questions or discussion on any of these items? At all? Entertain a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Action items this evening, we have one of those. Going to be a resolution adopting the Fond du Lac County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Staff note, Fond du Lac County Hazard Mitigation Plan update for the 2019 to 2024 has been adopted and approved by FEMA. Communities in the county may now adopt the adopted plan or updated plan, which will assure these municipalities are eligible to apply and receive federal grants. Staff recommends approval of this evening. Any questions or discussion on this? Doug?
I looked through this, and I do believe that the city of Ripon's responsibility would be mainly adding emergency generators to some of the wells and some of the lift stations. You know, talking with Chris at the wastewater treatment, he said that would come out of wastewater treatment plant's budget or the water utility for those items, and that the city directly would not be responsible for paying them.
Lori?
And there is nothing in, this is just a plan. There's nothing that obligates the city to take any action on these items. It just identifies the areas where there's potential to mitigate potential disasters.
Any other questions or discussion? Are you good with that, Doug? Jim?
Yes, I'm good.
Jim?
For you, Your Honor, is being on the safety committee, anything that you wanted to bring to the attention of the residents of Ripon that would, with dual hats, so I guess.
Yeah. No, not that as Lori just mentioned too, this is something we actually talked about last year too, with the city of Ripon, that if there's projects and plans, as Lori just mentioned, Doug mentioned, I think we talked about what was that street out on the west side? We're gonna talk about it later tonight. You know, if there's something that we have in Ripon that we need to apply for, and there's something that happens on the other side of the county or state even, then we can apply for funds from FEMA to do that in our community. So having the plan put together and approving it, the county, everything goes through the county. The biggest thing that, you know, I've seen and heard, you know, with the last couple of years, is paperwork. A lot of paper from staff. It's paperwork. But there's some of our townships, you know, neighboring us that, you know, they got a check for $100,000 or $150,000, you know, by making sure they follow through and the community does all the paperwork and stuff to get reimbursed for things like that. But we can also, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, but have stuff in our plan, as Doug just mentioning, that if something happens in La Crosse and it's declared an emergency, that if we're ready to go and we're first in line and we can submit ours right away, we potentially could get some of that funding here in Ripon to fix some of our infrastructure or whatever we may need or want to do.
Correct.
That's the benefit about doing this and having our ducks in a row and being part of this, so. Yep. Good.
I'm fine.
Any other questions or discussion? Lori, anything to add?
No.
Mike, anything? No. Okay. Okay.
And just call out that the resolution itself, as Lori pointed out, nothing in this plan obligates the city of Ripon to undertake any of the recommended activities under project. So it's something that you can go forward with, perhaps get funding for in the future, but nothing by adopting this resolution locks you into upgrading.
And we can add projects too down the road. This is, just because this is approved this evening doesn't mean we can't. If there's something we find in our community that needs to be, that we could add to this where we don't have funds to do it, but if something happens and it falls within those guidelines, we could have that updated at any point in time down the road. Any other questions or discussion? Entertain a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Discussion items this evening, we have 3 of those. The first one's going to be a columbarium. At their staff note, at their January 9th meeting, the Public Works Committee discussed the concept of a columbarium in one of the city's cemetery and seeks council approval to move forward with looking into the cost, location, and financing of the columbarium. We do have representatives with us this evening in the audience, so if there's any questions or discussion that you may have on that, we can certainly have them come up. I'll turn this over to the Chair of the Public Works Committee first, which is your Council President, Al Schrader. Al?
Yes, we, you know, and thank you to the people that were at our meeting last Wednesday for coming tonight. Very, very simply, we want to look at this from a Public Works committee, but would like the blessing of the council to move forward before we put some work into this. We also would very much like to include the people that attended the meeting on January 9th in our discussions. They represent a good cross-section of the community and are experts in this field, and they will help also guide the committee. So we are just looking for a consensus that there is interest in the committee moving forward and bringing some things back to the council for approval.
Anything else?
No, sir.
If anybody wants to come up and just, so the public knows what we're talking about, a columbarium and you know, where they are and what we're looking to maybe do here with the committee, Christie or anybody, just name and address and a little explanation about the columbarium and uses up by the microphone, I'm sorry.
My name's Christy Sadlin. I'm the owner of Divine Passage Funeral Home here in Ripon. I live at 406 State Street. And being in the business for 20 years, you know, my colleagues would agree that the cremation rate is rising. The trend is rising rapidly. And there are columbariums in other communities including Oshkosh, including Fond du Lac. I've come to word that Green Lake is interested in a columbarium as well. And with the cremation rate the way that it is, we just feel that it would be right for the city of Ripon to provide all the residents of Ripon the best opportunity, and some of that could be in a columbarium. What a columbarium is a unit made of granite where an urn would be enclosed into that unit for eternity for families to come and pay their respects. Are there any questions?
How many urns can you place in one?
It depends on the size. They come in varying size, different sizes.
So you can buy a bigger one or?
Correct. And there's ways that you can add on and things like that as well.
John?
Is there like a cost savings compared to buying a ground plot versus a spot in that columbarium?
That I'm not exactly sure, because I'm not with the city cemetery at all. And it all depends on what the city decides to sell their units as. So it all depends on what the entire columbarium is gonna cost, what the city decides to sell the unit as. I will say that there is a potential for a profit with this idea of having a columbarium, and families would also prepay for their space for the columbarium as well.
Anything else, John?
The savings comes to the family when it's cremated rather than a funeral, a
Correct.
full-blown funeral.
Correct, correct.
Experience tells me that.
Which exactly why the cremation rate, is raising. You can pay $4,000, you can pay $10,000. And, tradition, there are plenty of people who are still traditional and choose to have a full burial and do have their plots. But there are plenty of people who are choosing to go the cremation way. And many people are not even buying a plot. They're scattering their ashes, or, some of them are in the closet or the attic of great-grandma and great-grandpa, and they just don't know what to do with them. And they may not want to, purchase a plot and a headstone, and a columbarium may be appropriate for them.
Thank you, Christie. Any other questions? Anything to add from anybody else in the audience?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and just, Jim, he asked me before about my hat, so I see the cremation permits throughout the county. We got our reports and stuff, and within the last 10 years, you see the percentage going up and up and up, and as Raleigh mentioned too, it's the cost of, the traditional burial and what you use for a coffin and everything else, and this is a far more effective way for people to do it. I actually like the idea. My wife and I talked about it already. I wasn't at the meeting the other day, but the city administrator talked to me about it, and I talked to my wife about it already. So I think, as you mentioned, they would be sold before you would build it, or you would add on. Al, I think you could start small and you can add on, Lori told me.
Yeah, and that's part of the discussion that we had, that, we would want it where you could add on, where there was adequate space and, level space for, a memorial service, if that be the choice of the family, and those type of things. So, given the assistance that we are going to get from, these folks, I think we're going to be able to bring back a very strong proposal to the council for consideration.
Jim?
Yeah, I talked to a couple members of the committee too, and some concerns, but at the same time, why not continue to look into it? Basically, it's not saying we will do it, it's more of a blessing to continue the research, continue looking into cost, fee structures, insurance. I've had concerns over what of vandalism, who's responsible for that? Is it then the city? Who's responsible for, upkeep of vandals and things like that? So I talked to, Al specifically and another member as well, so a bunch of different questions, but I think that's better for them to work on than us at this point.
Yeah, the one thing that I seen from attending the Wisconsin Cemetery Association meeting that I went to, 54% of the Wisconsin people are getting cremated at this point. It is on the rise, as Christie said. They're expecting probably another 10%, 1% a year over the next 10 years. So it's something that I believe that we'll look at it, kind of from a business standpoint. also get some revenue into the cemeteries to be able to upgrade them, but it's a need for the community, and two, it should be self-supportive for itself. It's easy to maintain, and there's 1,000 different, what should I say, schemes that can be designed throughout this. So I do support it, at least taking a look and make sure that it makes sense from a city. Someplace, one thing that came up when I was at the conference was one church, they did something like a 50 unit columbarium. They sold 25 units pre-sale at a reduced rate. Once those were sold, they went ahead and they built the unit. That's what paid for the unit. The rest is revenue up and beyond that. So it could potentially be something that the city wouldn't even need to fork the money out to start with, do a pre-sale, build it. From that point, the revenue can be used for whatever the next one, or for maintaining the cemeteries. They are in some need of that. So that's my take on that.
Thanks, Mike. Anything else? Entertain a motion? Oh, you got something yet, Jim?
I was gonna make a motion to direct the Public Works Committee to continue looking into the columbariums and feasibility for the city of Ripon.
I'll second.
Is that good, Lud?
That's good.
Good with that, Al?
Perfect.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate the help. Okay, next discussion item, we got Tigert Street Bridge. Staff note, at December 10th meeting, Councilmember Split requested the item be put on tonight's agenda for discussion. Al, any updates on the Tigert Street Bridge? I know probably one of the things is your peer next to you is gone, and he was on your committee, I believe, so.
We have no updates from the Public Works Committee at this time, or the kind of the Tigert Street Committee. Our focus was more on the Aiken Street pass-through than it was the actual bridge, I guess. Personally, I have some questions regarding the bridge. Is that bridge completely shut down? I know in attending an event this Friday, talked with a former alderman who questioned, is there a load limit that could be placed on the current structure to allow it to be passable, shall we say, or what are our options? So I think we need to look further at this, whether it be as a council or whether it be some committee or what have you. But
Al, I'm just curious, I just asked Lud, Doug was on that committee with you and Aaron, correct?
Yep.
And then you're on the Public Works Committee too, Doug?
Yes.
Is this something that Public Works Committee could just put on their agenda and discuss and talk about and bring back at a future meeting? Instead of trying to create something else or finding somebody else to sit on that, or waiting until we have more council members?
Well, we've got a number of issues on our agenda currently. We need to finish up our work regarding the pavilion in the baseball diamonds. We continue to receive information, thanks to Mike's help and others regarding that. We now have the columbarium. I don't believe that's going to be a long process by any means. There's some great ideas out there, and again, I will reflect on the technical assistance that the committee is receiving from the professionals in the community on that. So we certainly could take a look at it. We don't want to burden the committee with too many things at one time, but it's an option. But I believe that the whole Aiken Street, Tigert Street area is something that needs to be looked at. When you look at, I noticed there's a new sign that was placed by the dam today. I noticed it today, but what are we going to do with that area, with fencing and all of those things? And I think it's a bigger scope than we still have to get soil borings from Aiken Street to determine, you know, if that street can be developed into a street or needs to be not developed into a street, so.
John,
Got work to do.
I'll turn it over to you. You asked for this to be put on the agenda if there's any questions.
Right, my first concern was, and Al touched on it, can we just possibly remove those concrete barriers and just have light car traffic over that, or we can't? Wondering if Public Works or if any engineers has looked into the condition of the bridge. I think this has been going on, I think I had an email from July 19th, 2017. So it's about 2.5 years, it's just been kind of in limbo.
I just actually asked our city attorney, and it's why I just asked Al about that, and, you know, to keep this going and try to work on this, if this is something that maybe Howie at the Park and Rec Committee, if you'd want to transfer this over, because Mr. Becker's gone now, so we're short one person, and you guys are on.
I was on that committee as well.
What's that?
I was on that committee, but I was not able to attend.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's kind of where I was going with it. I just asked city attorney, because John can't, because he's a resident there and a homeowner, if Raleigh or Jim could come with you to the Park and Rec Committee, and then Mike could, you know, whatever, pick up where he worked on that with your Aiken Committee, and then just transfer that over there, so it can be worked on sooner versus later. It's up to you guys. I'm just giving you a suggestion and idea to keep this thing moving, as Split just mentioned. It's been a while, so. Mike?
And Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the bridge was shut down by Travis Drake due to concerns over that bridge. That's why it's where it's at. I think for about $1,000, I can have an engineer look at it like he did for us at the State Street Bridge. If you would, can direct me to do that, I'd be more than happy to have that done. As far as core sampling of that street, I can get that added to some other core sampling that we have that is going to be done here shortly also. And we could have that data also to help us make decisions on that. If I don't think it needs to go to committee if that's how you want to direct me. It would give us some data to make a better decision on something.
I think it was more than just the bridge, Mike. It was that whole area and that street
Whole
that we
area.
have
Okay,
one way.
then I
And
just thought the road,
Yeah, and I believe we have data on that. Lori can look, but I think Travis had that stuff all done. So Lori will have to look into that.
okay,
And,
I thought it was structurally investigated
is
by
crumbling.
engineers, that's why we
Yeah.
shut it down.
yeah,
it is
Before we-
crumbling.
Yeah, before we reinvent the wheel of paying MSA or somebody else
Right.
to look at it again, let's please make sure we don't have something already on file.
Same with the soil boring, my understanding it was
You
there.
have that?
I believe there was a boring that was done
Okay,
as well on Aiken.
okay.
it's been a while. It's been a while, and it was before your time, Mike, and that's why I'm just
Yeah.
asking if, you know, Al wants to, in agreeable, and Howie's willing to do that and transfer this over to the Park and Rec Committee, and start looking at it, and then Lori can get the information and bring you up to speed, Mike, and stuff, and you know, go from there, and whether they need to do something, or you can do something just with that piece right now, and they can continue looking at the whole aspect of it. It's up to this body what you guys choose to do, so I think that's a direction Mr. Split is looking for, correct?
Yes.
Any thoughts, discussion?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doug.
I recall Travis closed that stream crossing because it was structurally deficient.
Right.
He had someone look at it and do all the borings and everything, and it was crumbling, and it wasn't safe to drive anything over it. That's why we put the concrete barriers there. We haven't done anything else with it. We've talked about developing that as a park and doing something with it, but it's not in our park plan, which needs to be updated. Now it's 15 years old. So maybe we can add something into that when we decide to update that. And maybe we get some grant money and something to do something with that area. I don't know, but by all means, let's look over the data again, but I think it was structurally deficient.
Yeah,
And it was gonna cost us, I recall, $500,000 to replace.
Yeah. I still want Lori to look at that and get all that information.
Definitely.
because
We need to-
Sometimes Travis gave us an
Estimate.
unofficial opinion, and
Yeah.
sometimes it was a
Right.
report from somebody. So and I can't tell you right now as I'm sitting here what that was from a couple years ago, but we need to know that. And then if this body directs it to go one way or another, or just come back here with a report at the next meeting, and then you can decide where to go from there if you want them. You don't have to decide anything this evening, so.
I'd like to see some information, based on what has been done with the soil borings and everything before we make a decision
Okay,
where
we'll-
it should go.
We'll put this on as a discussion item at the
Personally.
next meeting again. We'll refresh everybody with the information that we have to date, Lori.
Sounds good.
Other questions, ideas? Okay, we'll see this on our next agenda item, and we'll get you anything, we'll get Mike up to speed too before the meeting. Okay, third discussion item this evening, going to be State Street Guardrail. At the December 10th meeting, Councilmember Split requested this item be put on tonight's agenda for discussion. Information was in your packet, but any questions or discussion? Mike is here, and Lori has the information that we put in your packet. MSA looked at this, Lori?
Yes.
Any thoughts, John, on, after reading the report in your file on? This is one that we actually did talk about, earlier this evening, but it was last year or something with the FEMA and the mitigation plan. That's something that if we had that in line last year when there was an emergency and a declaration on, actually in our state, that we could have sent this in and had that in the pipeline to get some money to fix that for. So,
The reason I brought it up was I had a couple family member, well, they're distant family members, and they had gone to a couple funerals, and it was brought to my attention that, that barricade is still up on State Street, and they were like 2 years apart, the funerals. So just getting more information on it, when possibly it could be fixed or something done to it, is why I wanted it discussed.
and just for the public listening and watching I've been through there a few times and not too often, but the report states that at this time, it wasn't to the point where replacing it, just leaving it barricaded off and going around it on the one side because of the lack of traffic and use. However, when there's funerals, there's obviously more there, but that's the report that the council members have in their file this evening. If we had money, obviously, we'd probably get it fixed sooner versus later, or if we can come across something else to fund it, then it would probably get done. But there's nothing immediate danger or any concern from the engineering aspect of it after they looked at it, leaving it closed off on the one side. Any other question or discussion? Doug?
Did MSA hazard a guess on the replacement cost?
I can ask for replacement cost.
Was it in there? Jim, did you see a rough estimate in there? I thought,
I thought we had an estimate a year ago when we originally looked at it.
there again, I think that, I remember Travis saying something about that, and that's something that we could look into too, and we can get back and report back to you guys at another meeting. Do we have anything, Lori, on estimates, whether it was rough or real?
Gary?
Doug?
I think if we had a good estimate cost, then when it's time, when we have to do it, we have an idea what it's gonna cost. I mean, obviously, if it's 10 years from now, that estimate's not gonna be any good. But I think we need to have some idea of what it's gonna be, so that if there's some money available someplace soon, we have that kind of packaged up and ready to go.
And that has to be, if we're gonna do that, and include that for a potential project. So Mike would have to be working on that anyways to get that. So we'll look into that and report back on that. Raleigh?
Yeah, Gary, I'm thinking that, I thought we approved that to be fixed at one time, and then there was something to do with, they wanted a double wall, or they wanted to build a wall on the north side of that, just to build it up, and then something happened. I believe Travis said that
that it was okay the way it was and didn't have to now.
Right, yeah, check, but if you could,
Yep.
if we could research that to see, I thought we already approved it once to be
It
fixed.
could be Jackson.
That's Jackson.
Oh, Jackson, I'm sorry.
That was that
Because they
muddy-
did Jackson and Tigard Street at the same time.
That was that
They had the
muddy
engineer do
mobile
both of those.
We have a few of them in our community that had some issues.
This is state.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, you're referring to Jackson. where
Yes.
Yeah.
there's like a seal
Mike, are
coat
you
mud.
comfortable the way it is barricaded and,
Yeah.
okay. I'm just curious whether there's a better way. You're comfortable?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
The way it's at.
Okay.
MSA was good with it, the way it was at, so, they
That's fine.
recommended that in that.
I'll make sure we aren't missing a safety hazard. Thank you.
Is the narrow bridge sign posted? I didn't look.
Is there?
I don't remember.
Yeah, just don't hit the guardrail.
I'll
But let's point about liability.
Yeah,
check on it.
I think there is a narrow bridge sign out there.
I don't remember, I didn't look.
Two of them, actually, I think.
I can't remember.
I'm checking with my chief lead in the back of the room is giving me the answer right now, so, not that I was smart or anything, but he's telling me
He's
there's
not?
two of them out there, so,
Thank you.
good. And there again, we'll take a look at that, and we can bring that back and update the council, you know, as to numbers and stuff, because that's something Mike would need to put into a formal proposal if we can find some money through a hazard mitigation plan. Any other discussion or questions on this? Okay. Project updates, staff reports. Lori?
I don't have anything.
Mike? Okay. Any questions, council? Jim?
Mike, Christmas trees, do they have to call in, or are you just going around?
That is what the policy is, unless you would like to direct me differently.
I've had people call and ask
Yeah.
me.
I think we
honestly, I
got over
didn't.
50 call-ins. We did not pick up today due to the storm. We'll pick up tomorrow. I know last year you, never mind.
I know you discussed it in December, I thought you said you were gonna go around.
We can do a full roundabout on that if you'd like. Otherwise, we got about 50-plus call-ins at this point.
I know some people that have approached me that didn't realize they had to call in. So, even though, you know, we did put it out there, a lot of people didn't get the,
My recommendation is if you're gonna do a full roundabout, that you would probably
Just do it.
do that in February, so the paper has time to put it in, we can put it on Facebook, PD can put it on, because if you go out tomorrow and do a full round, and people don't put them out until this weekend, then they're not gonna know about it. So, I mean, the policy is to call in, you say you got 50 calls. I mean, I didn't talk to anybody about this till we're sitting here now, but I don't want, you go out tomorrow, tell Mike, yep, go out there tomorrow, go through the whole city, and next week, there's 30 trees out there, and we didn't pick them up, and they gotta call in and sit and wait. So, I mean, I think we can pick up all the call-ins or anything that's out there when you drive by, but maybe make sure that everybody knows next month, you're gonna do once through for any of them. It's just a suggestion, but it's up to this body to direct Mike what to do.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but then they're sitting there for a month with snow plowing, Gary, so I don't.
yeah.
Then they'll be, yeah. it could
Well, they're
be.
still gonna pick them up tomorrow. I'm just saying. If we go out tomorrow in the next 2 days and pick them up, and there's people that have them in their house yet, throw them out there this weekend, they're gonna be sitting there for a month anyways.
They're really into Christmas if it's sitting for another month.
Some people do, but up to you guys. You tell Mike what you want him to do.
I think we should look at picking them up before, you know, if we get dumped with a big snow, it's gonna be tougher on them in the long run to turn around and pull them out of the drifts that are plowed in and that,
Well, they're
and you're
gonna
wasting
pick
more
them
time.
up. They're gonna pick them up tomorrow. The
I
question
realize
is,
if we,
you want
but
them to
not
do-
just the 50 that have
you wanna do
called.
the whole city?
Do a
do the whole
complete
city?
sweep.
Okay, unless
Be my
somebody
recommendation.
says, no, Mike, go through the whole city and start picking them up tomorrow.
Well, but even with the 50 that you've got, when they see the Christmas tree or they see a tree out there, they will
sir.
pick it up. It's.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
They're not gonna drive by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna drive through the whole community, starting tomorrow.
It's
That's if we-
probably 2 days.
Yeah, that's fine, I don't care, it doesn't matter what it is. You're gonna drive through the whole community, starting tomorrow, to pick up Christmas trees and brush or anything else that's out there.
Whatever we can find that it's exposed in the snowbank.
Yep. Al?
Is this a one-time thing?
Yep. That,
It's a one-time thing?
that's why I suggested about
Because
doing it next month.
frankly, I've had some friends, she'll keep that tree until April.
Till the last needle falls.
And then, then you wanna stick it out in the snowbank and then have to go pick it up again? I mean,
Well, if they call in, it's fine. I mean, as long as they
I
call in.
understand, but this is a kind of a one-time shot, and then
Go through
you're
the
gonna
whole
have to
city.
call in.
Without calling in, right.
Okay.
Yep. Unless somebody says otherwise, but that's what he'll do tomorrow.
Ian's gonna have that in the paper.
Yep. Well,
Well, maybe
they'll get the paper about the time they're done picking up. The
Or you could
paper
just- You could have it
technically
in the
is.
paper this week and it'd be the pickup, it'd be next week, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It won't be this week?
Right.
Well, then why wouldn't we do it next week? If that time's available, it just seems reasonable to say, those 50 you go pick up tomorrow. And then everybody else is on notice, tree out by
I don't care.
next Wednesday, whatever
me.
that is.
Yeah.
And
What I'm
tree
just
out,
saying.
tree will get picked up.
The way the snow looks, that might work better for us.
Okay, there you go.
Up to you guys.
Seems reasonable, they put it in the paper, deadline to have your tree for sure picked up.
I might get called, why didn't you pick my tree up?
Right, exactly.
Well, you got normal brush pickup this week.
What's that, Jim?
You're on normal brush pickup this week.
This week.
So you'd still be doing it on whatever brush is there, so
I know,
you're
I
still
get
doing.
you. in
Can
February.
do the 50 this week and
And
Maybe
basically
February
you'd
means-
ask for
I
us
think
for an extra direction for an extra brush pickup for next Thursday, Friday.
That's what,
That's in a sense what you're asking for.
That will get in the paper.
and PD can put it on Facebook. Is that the direction that you would like to go?
And the website.
Right. Barring snowstorms or whatever have you,
Right.
they gotta clear the streets first, but, okay? So you're gonna do your normal brush pickup tomorrow, get all your 50 call-ins or anybody else that's out there, and you're gonna do once around through the community. You pick a date and let Ian know and let Lori know so they can get it on Facebook and stuff, someday next week that you're gonna do that.
Well, be next Thursday or Friday, so it's in the paper next Wednesday.
Right.
Does that include holiday trees? Sorry.
I would say Thursday would be better.
Okay, I have no communication appointments this evening. Any future council meeting agenda items other than what we discussed this evening? John?
Can we discuss something about the Haas Brewery stable? And see, I'd like to know what the city's views are on that. Behind Smuckers, or the old Smuckers.
And who's working on that, Lori?
That was historic preservation, came for a designation, but that was declined.
Right. So I just want to know what future plans the city has with it, if they're gonna try to sell it, fix it up. There's some repairs that need to be done on the roof, so it doesn't turn into a American House problem.
We can put it on a future discussion item. I know I donated money for that to be painted about 5 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
There was issues with the creek and all kinds of issues with that.
What we'll do is we'll try to dig up any information we have on that project also from the past 10 years or whatever have you, any discussions and different committees that were looking at it and talking about it in council meetings, and we'll put that in a packet and put it on a discussion item down the road. Okay? Nothing else, so entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Move
make a
to
motion
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.